Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. And we call grace, Lord is with thee, blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death.
Saint Catherine, thou art
Pray for us.
Father. Okay. Well, so you had a chance to read that, get through the war of the third thing. I'm gonna go ahead and I figured out how to get this thing up here. This is Napoleon's. I've got this spreadsheet. If anybody, that's it. I'll be happy to share the spreadsheet with you. But this kind of gives you an idea of what it's almost like his little career in a make it bigger. I'm just going to kind of look at this. He had 81 battles, most of them he won. But this over here in the right hand column. These are the French casualties, which as a soldier just blows my mind to see all these casualties. And so this is the first coalition, which was when these were these battles that they were having with first battles they were having, a lot of them with Austria, and he's down in Italy. Remember all the stuff, all of his actions in Italy, and so I mean, just to give you an idea, the butcher's bill on that was, the sum is 161,185. We're talking like how many Northerners were taken out in our Civil War. Then when he goes into Egypt, that's another 59,200 and some more people than we lost in Vietnam.
Oh, really?
And this is happening over a period. This is 1798 through 1799. So August, October through, this is less than a year. This is 9 months. In 9 months, they lose, over 50,000 dead soldiers. Now this is the war of the second coalition. And they've gone back into Italy, pretty much. 19,000. Then they have the war of the third coalition. That's what we're going to be talking about. And this is something that goes on from basically 2 months. The war of the third, 2 months, and the butcher's bill on that is going to be 77,000 plus in 2 months. So I am staggered, and we're going to get to the fourth, the Peninsula War. We'll actually go through, but when you get down to the bottom line, what he lost about 1.3, a little over 1.3 million French soldiers dead, and which is 5.3% of their entire population.
So it's not that bad.
Well, if we lost 5% of our population, we lose 18 million people today.
That means
United States.
the bigger a population is, the more people it will lose. If talk about the same percentage.
Well, I mean, if it's the same percentage, right?
Yeah.
So, but I'm just trying to compare apples to apples, so you can feel what's the pain point? Geez, how they lost 5%. What would that feel like? I said, well, what would it feel like in the United States if we lost 5%? If you were in Russia, Russia's got about 125 million people, and 5% of that would be roughly about 7.5 million. Which, by the way, they lost more than that during the Second World War.
Oh yeah.
I just want to me, this is this tells a lot of the story about what's going on there, and sometimes it blows my mind how enthusiastic the population was about getting into these wars. Why is it doing that? I think it's just waiting. It's supposed to change. There we go. So anyway, let's go ahead. We finished off yesterday. Napoleon now becomes an emperor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's beyond being consul for life. He's the emperor, so he's the man, and he's now and he's sort of flim flam the Pope getting crowned because now he thinks I am by rights the Holy Roman Empire because I've been crowned the way Charlemagne was crowned. Well, who actually at this moment is the Holy Roman Empire emperor? Where is he? No, that's the king of the supposed king of France. But who is theoretically in charge of the Holy Roman Empire? Who's been in charge? What family has been running the Holy Roman Empire now for about 600 years? The Habsburgs. The Habsburgs. The Habsburgs have been, and these the Austrians, and the Austrian Empire has as these people were the electors were electing constantly. Always it just was done. You elect the Habsburgs to be there. So now it's Franz II, who's the who's the em, who's the Holy Roman Emperor. He's also the king of Austria and Hungary. So he's got a big piece of real estate, but he had influence or he had authority over most of the German principalities except for Prussia. Prussia basically had gotten themselves pulled away. And at some point, the Holy Roman Empire, they had the Prussian who was actually in charge of that was Charles IV, who was down in Spain. So at some points, the Holy Roman Empire, I mean, this is during the time we're talking about from 1600 on, they had Spain, all of northern Italy, they had Amsterdam, Belgium. They basically surrounded France. And so that was, remember, you had all that drama with the French kings always they would side with the Protestants to push back on the Catholic Habsburgs.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were, from a political standpoint, they were trying to chip away at these. We're surrounded by this thing, so we're trying to chip away to get. So it's been part of the French, I guess, almost their political culture, be pushing back on this Holy Roman Empire. What since the 16th century, right? We were seeing it back then. So you don't want it. So it's not actually a shocker that you've got this French now emperor who's looking at say, okay, now I finally been crowned emperor. I'm with the whole Charlemagne. We're bringing it back to where it belongs because Charlemagne was actually the Germans and the French will fight over this. Charlemagne means Charles the Great in French, and in the Germans called him Karl der Grosse, which is Charles the Great in German. And he was in Aachen, where Aachen is. Wait, I don't know how to turn that thing off. So Charles, in Aachen is right up on the border of Germany, just barely just in Germany. So the people were always arguing about who's really in charge here. Okay. So anyway, Napoleon, this is one of the things that are kind of setting the stage for this next war, the War of the Third Coalition. Tsar Pavel, who is the son of who is actually the son of Catherine the Great. Remember who Catherine the Great was? She sort of you had Peter the Great. There was some incompetence that had followed him, and then Catherine the Great shows up. She's actually a German, but very much takes in the whole Russian thing, and she puts all of Peter the Great's plans into action. So she kind of builds up Russia. A couple of the czars that follow her are incompetent, and then you had her son was the Tsar Pavel, and he's not all that competent. And late in life, he's going absolutely, he's going insane. He's clinically insane. Like
Hmm.
he needs a be put in a cell. So his son Alexander supports a plot to basically have him abdicate and he take the spot. These folks go in to basically they basically sneak into Tsar Pavlov's, I guess, his home. I think it was even like in his bedroom type thing. They sneak in there and say, "You're going to abdicate, or else." He refused. He's insane,
Yeah.
and they kill him. So now Alexander's got a little bit of a problem, as much as he could be somewhat implicated in the murder of his father. But nevertheless, he becomes the czar and he rules as an enlightened despot, sort of like his ancestor, Peter the Great. Remember, Peter the Great was a big fan, he was a big fan of Voltaire and all that stuff. Voltaire lived to be about 70 years old, so the fact that he kind of reaches back that far is not shocking. But at some point he changes from he was very pro Napoleon, and then in time he becomes very anti-Napoleon. Doesn't really go into too much of why that was, but it does make that point that he was very pro-French. This is cool. Napoleon's cool. Look at all this cool stuff he does. And then I think he kind of like dials it back and says, "Okay, this may not be a good thing for us." He goes anti-Napoleon. So he turns to Great Britain, and Prime Minister Pitt likewise despises Napoleon. The British don't like him. They can see this. Well, one, they don't like the idea that some commoner basically takes over the military and wipes out the monarchy. Basically makes it so institutionally it can't come back. So Prime Minister Pitt likewise despises Napoleon. They try to get on Austrian Emperor Franz II, who is the Holy Roman Emperor, right? They try to get him to join their group. And because Franz is interested because he wants to take back the lands that he lost to Napoleon in Italy. Remember? Because that was that first coalition he was involved in. Napoleon kicks him out of Italy. That was a big chunk of their. So they all get together and they form the third coalition. That's the third coalition. You're going to see this play out again after he defeats the third coalition. This is one of the things you're going to see. It's a little bit of a look into the future. But after he defeats the third coalition, they all say, "Okay, we're done. We're not going to mess with you anymore." They start putting together the fourth coalition like within months. I just every time I read about one of these treaties that happens over in Europe, I kind of go like, why would we ever sign a treaty? These people don't get it. Anyway, so the War of the Third Coalition, Napoleon takes the initiative. He's got to put his invasion plan. He was going to invade England, who he thinks is like the main player here. But then he puts it on hold because now that he sends out all of his people over and they're all in England, he's kind of like can't protect his own borders, right? So he has to put that on hold. He plans to invade Germany, specifically Bavaria. And he does. He goes in there and this is the Battle of Ulm. He goes in there. I've been in Ulm. Ulm is actually a very pretty little place in Lower Bavaria. They have a beautiful church there with they call them Schwebelturms. They're big towers, but on the top it looks like an onion. And the Schwebel is an onion.
So it's like a mushroom.
Well, it looks a little bit like an onion, but it kind of, how an onion is kind of like it's if you turn an onion upside down, it's kind of pointed at the top. Well, maybe actually it's pointed at the root. So that's what that's what they call it, Schwebel. Did it stop sharing?
Yeah.
sharing now?
Mhm.
So he goes in there, he smacks down Ulm, and then he goes to take Vienna. He actually takes Vienna. And then he's defeated the Austrians and the Russians. He beats him at Ulm. So now, meanwhile, the British Admiral Nelson defeats the combined French and Spanish fleets at Trafalgar, which was his last battle because he gets shot there and he dies.
So the reason of his loss is the thing that they made the jacket is like not a red material. So in the cold winter, the material will be kind of like destroyed, so that the soldiers were like extremely cold and they're cold to death. Is that what happened?
Are we talking about? I think you're thinking about when they retreat from Russia. They haven't
Yeah.
had his. This is the first third coalition when he actually goes into Russia. In fact, let me see if I can bring up that just to get ahead so we don't get that deep.
So when he was retreating from Russia, that's not his last.
This is in the red. The red here is okay. This red, it's just slow relative to mine. This red here, which is the French invasion of Russia, happens later. So we're still in put this in time wise. The third
Oh, I'm sorry.
the third coalition is happening in 1805. There's 2 months in 1805, and they don't really even get into the winter, really. They're done by December 2. Okay. You're thinking of when he goes into Russia, which is 2 years later,
Mhm.
and actually more than 2 years later, it's about 6 years later. And he goes into Russia, and this is this area that's kind of in red, and the butcher's bill on that, and I'm not even counting the people who died from the cold.
Mhm.
He lost 212 dead on the battlefield.
Only on the battlefield.
On the battlefield, and then he lost over 100,000 men because basically the cold, in the winter. Mother Russia got him. So I just just to put that in context, Russia was part of the third coalition. Actually, they were part of, I think they were, no, were they part of the first coalition? I'd have to go look that up. So they try to get Friedrich Wilhelm. He's the king of Prussia now. They try to get him involved. He promises to help the Russians in the sense that I'm going to talk to Napoleon. We're on terms. I'm going to talk to him, and if we can't negotiate a peace, then I will join you
to find.
Okay. So he makes this promise to the third coalition, and then he talks to Napoleon, and they cut a secret deal. He completely just backstabs him. He cuts a secret deal with Napoleon. Says, "I'll tell you what. If we pull this off, I'm going to give you Hanover," which happens to be. Remember, he just took Hanover in first thing he does, goes and takes Hanover from the British. The British say, "Okay, you're going to. It looks like you're going to invade us." They declare war. He goes into Hanover. So he now occupying Hanover. He says, "So Friedrich, hey, what I'll do? I'll give you Hanover." So Friedrich Wilhelm just completely just pulls back. Doesn't tell his allies, the third coalition, that he's what he's doing, but he's done that. Yes, sir. Sure. So here's how this thing ends up. So Napoleon, he's taken Vienna, he pursues the Austrians and the Russians into Moldavia, and they have the Battle of Austerlitz. I don't know why this is a thing for me. I look up what these words mean. So Auster in German means oyster, and Litz means ribbon. So can you believe I live in a city called Oyster Ribbon? think some of the places we have are like have weird names. I just think who who manages your okay, well anyway. So Napoleon is way outnumbered, but he's a very good tactician. He beats the Russians. And now the book goes in there. It's the book I actually giving Napoleon a lot of sort of like credit for like dreaming up these tactics. The tactics that he used to defeat the Russians was exactly what they call the oblique of Epaminondas, which happened in 378 BC in the Battle of Leuctra. And it was where he, who's a Thebeian, defeated a much larger Spartan army. What that oblique is, used to, I don't know if this is like too off topic. The way this tactic worked, it used to be that the two Greek army would line up and they would just both run at each other about across the field. They just run at each other, usually about 50 to 100 meters, and then they would crash into each other and then kill a bunch of people, and they kind of like back up to see who did better than who. Well, Epaminondas, what he did is he said, what we're going to do is you guys are just going to kind of like stand, like walk in place. You're not really going to run, 150 meters, 200 meters across the field. But usually each one run 100 meters. They make them run the whole 200 meters. You're going to be kind of fresh. And he puts his weak soldiers over there. He puts his real strong ones over close. The strong ones kind of like pull around that side. The other ones that go over are now exhausted because you're running in armor, carrying all this weight. So they get over there, they're exhausted, and then he just then folds the flank around. Well, that's basically what Napoleon did. He let the he basically got this flank, got it with cavalry, and got this flank going, and let this other people who were weak sort of like retreat in an orderly retreat. So these guys are like basically running into the back. He's actually creating like a and then once he's got them surrounded, then it's an absolutely slaughter. It's absolutely slaughter. So anyway, my guess is Napoleon studied this.
That's kind of, that's kind of smart.
Well, there's another time. There was a famous battle in a Revolutionary War where they just it was down in South Carolina. It was called Cowpens. I guess that's a little bit oyster ribbon. But anyway, Cowpens was the name of this thing over the battle was. And the tactics that we used there were the same tactics that Hannibal used to defeat the Romans, where he let the center fold in. He put a real soft center. So they're all attacking into the center now, and they're kind of folding in. Whereas the flanks are basically holding. And now once they get down there, once they get in the middle there, then they close the flanks in on them and have them surrounded, and they slaughter. And that's exactly, and it was because that guy read history and said, okay, field looks a little bit like what it was. Worked for Hannibal, they don't work for us. And it did. It did. We just slaughtered Cromwell. I'm not Cromwell, Cornwall. Austria sues for peace. And it's absolutely humiliating concessions. They've just been whooped. And I mean, he's in Venice, which is the capital. He loses Venice. He loses Tyrol region in Italy. He loses Bavaria and Württemberg. He essentially loses all access to the Rhine. Whereas normally they're kind of like surrounding him. They've completely pushed back on the other side of the Alps. Basically all they have is Austria and Hungary. That's basically it. And Hungary's not part of the Holy Roman Empire. It was just part of the kingdom. So they're completely pushed. They're no longer in Italy. They've been pushed out of Italy. So they're on the other side of Switzerland, on the other side of the Rhine River. They're done. So you're Napoleon. You already think you're crowned just like Charlemagne. You've beaten France II, who is the Holy Roman Emperor. So what do you think of your new status? You think you are now what?
Here,
Well, I won, so I'm now the Holy Roman Emperor.
uh, oh,
He says, okay, I've been crowned by the Pope, kind of, with Charlemagne's crown, and I've beaten you on the field.
I'm the.
So I'm the Holy Roman Emperor. So it's not crazy talk.
No.
It's a little vain. And so what does it, and so what? Except that we can carve that on your tombstone. Here lies the Holy Roman Empire. So anyway, so he basically decides, I'm the Holy Roman Emperor. And so what this does is he decides, now as the Holy Roman Emperor, he decides, okay, I can take Naples from this Bourbon king, King Fernando IV, because I'm the Holy Roman Emperor. I make these decisions. And he has to go through, the Pope basically is saying, no, you're not the Holy Roman Emperor, that's France. So the Pope pushes back and says, okay, we're done. And he's gonna go through Naples to make that, but his route takes him through Rome. Right? To get to Naples, you're gonna have to go through Rome. So he goes through Rome. He sends the letter to the Pope, basically stating his intent to take the papal states because he now is the Holy Roman Empire, their emperor, so I can take those states. He makes his brother Joseph Napoleon king of Naples. Now, in theory, the king of Naples is a vassal to the Pope from the old feudal arrangements, which means the Pope can tell him what to do. So Napoleon basically tells his brother, seize the papal port, and I'm taking more of the papal states. This is sort of like, you don't mess with me. Every time you mess with me, it's gonna I'll up the pain. So he does that. So he's taking more of this stuff. The other thing he does to sort of like cement this thing, he creates the Confederation of the Rhine. So he takes all these German states and that had been basically little independent states, if you will. The only thing that had the only little glue that held them together was that they were part of the Holy Roman Empire, right? And Napoleon's deciding, I'm going to figure out a way to do this. So he sets them up as the Confederation of the Rhine. And these are German states that he conquered during the War of the Third Coalition. And remember, the electors are the ones who elect the Holy Roman Emperor. Who now controls the people who are going to be casting most of those votes? The Holy Roman Emperor. Napoleon. He can tell the former states that involved in the Holy Roman Empire are now down in the Italian area. He completely controls that. He can basically send them, you will vote for me to be Holy Roman Empire. And he can tell the Germans in the German Confederation states who kind of like this arrangement a little bit more than they did being part of the when it comes up, you're going to be voting for me to be the Holy Roman Emperor.
So that you go.
Yeah. Basically, he controls he controls the votes. Now,
So therefore, it's meaningless for them to vote if he controls the vote, right?
well, yeah, they're going to vote rather than find themselves in a 6-foot hole, right? So Franz II, who is the Holy Roman Emperor at the time, and I don't know really what the value of that is, except you can carve it on your tombstone. He knows that Napoleon controls the votes. So what does he do? He formally dissolves the Holy Roman Empire. He says it no longer exists. There's no Holy Roman Empire. There's no empire to be emperor of. I've dissolved it. That's my last act. So this kind of ends, so when did the Holy Roman Empire sort of get started? When did it start? Basically, what century do you remember?
Uh,
About 850.
800.
Yeah, 800, yeah, right around there. So it had been going on for almost a millennia, right?
Hmm.
Well, actually, it had been going on for millennia. It had been going on for 1,000 years. It's now 1800.
Yeah.
So it was going on for millennia. It's now done. It had lasted longer. I believe it lasted longer than the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire, I don't know when we would date the beginning of the Roman Empire, but I think it would be about like, it would have been about 300, 250 BC or something like that. You guys, your ancient history is probably better than mine. So it's around there, 250, 300 BC, 350 BC, something like that.
Yeah.
First emperor. And it lasted till about 600.
Basically like 300 years.
So it lasted, 300 before Christ, 600 after
right.
Christ, add those together, so it lasted about 900 years. So the Holy Roman Empire had actually outlasted the Roman Empire in terms of being
Wow.
recognized as a thing, right?
Well, 900 years since the
That's long. So from what you read in there, was there any other pieces of information you want to chat about, or? You good?
Well, the only thing I can think is, 900 years or even 1,000 years is not that long for an empire.
I guess compared to, like the Chinese Empire started probably about 1,000 years BC
Mhm.
and probably ended up till about, probably about 2,500 years. Yeah. We're very peripatetic over here. Hard to control. So what we're going to do is we're going to, when we come back after the holiday, we'll get into the fourth coalition, which is, we're going to see the Prussians get engaged, and they'll bring back Russia and Great Britain, Austria, so bring them back. Because everybody who's signed all these treaties now, this thing, they're gonna think on, they're gonna go think on them in a heartbeat. So, which is, I always just roll my eyes. So how did that last treaty go for you? Yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna cut you loose. See ya, and be sure to read the rest. If you got a whole week, you probably can read the rest of the chapter, the wars. Let's see how many pages. Okay, we've got the Confederation line, but up at the end of two emperors. So you're going to start basically around 216.
Mhm.
Wait a second. No, I'm sorry. We finished End of the Empire. We're going to start on War Renewed. This is going to be 1806. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1806. We'll go, so 214. And we come back. We met that next week. We'll probably be able to get through. Let's try to get up to 229. Then we'll get 1812 on after that.
Okay.
And then that's kind of like, yeah, let's try to get up to 229. That gives you a whole week to do more to sort of doing it. You guys got plans for Thanksgiving?
Not really.
No.
Not really.
Just stay at home.
Just stay at home, eat a lot of turkey,
Yeah.
rake leaves. Two chores. Okay. I'll let you go.
Thank you, Mr.
You have a